Hi, this is Gary. I just wanted to say hello. It's Monday, what date is it? Monday the 29th of December. I just thought I'd sort of say hello before the second part of the first episode of Who is Meghan Markle is broadcast. I presume it will be broadcast at 8 o'clock as it's supposed to. We'll see what we see when we see it. I just got back from an afternoon skiing, so that's why I'm late and I look a bit wrecked. It's the first skiing I've done in just, I think, 5 or 6 years. So, hello. Welcome. Um, Give me feedback on what you think about the series of Who is Meghan Markle. It's taken me months and months and months to do. This is the second part of the first episode, and if all goes well, every single Monday you will have a short sequence um, between 6 and 10 minutes, not longer than that. I've decided that longer than that might be a bit too long for some people. The new attention span, which is a bit limited. They originally were between 20 and 30 minutes each, and it seemed that I tested it out, and people said it's too long. So I've edited it into small ones. So thank you for being here. Um, it'll go live hopefully in about 3 minutes. Welcome. So let me know what you think. First of all, why why you're on, why you're talking, why you're looking at me. What is there anything that you want, anything that you need, anything I can help you with, any questions you'd like me to answer? That's why I'm here. Otherwise, everything should be automatic, hopefully. So we'll see what happens with that. But people have asked me why I have done this. Why have I done this Meghan Markle series? And do I know her? Have I ever met her? Someone's asked me to do it. Well, the truth of the matter is nothing. The truth of the matter is I find her interesting. I find her fascinating. I find that a lot of her stories, a lot of her history, and a lot of her functioning or even dysfunctioning needs to be explained on a psychological point of view. Just to say, oh, this is a bad person or a good person or this, that, the other, for me, it doesn't is not sufficient. Not sufficient. Sorry, I'll try and speak a bit clearer. What I need to do is to try and understand. And since I've been a teenager, one of the most important things for me is to try and understand why people do what they do, who they are, why they are who they are. And I think that's something really important. When you take someone that you find either wonderful or incredibly irritating, it's really interesting to try and find out why. What it is in that person that is so problematical for you. And then to dig in and see if you can find out why they are doing these things, why they act this way. Why is it that Meghan Markle is Meghan Markle? And she does the most weird things. She is so self-destructive. And one would say, well, this is not reasonable. This is not normal. This is sick. This is pathological. No, this is a complex human being. And we're all complex human beings, which is one of the things that I really want to try and show you throughout this series, is the fact is that she has been created the way that she is by her history, by her parents' histories, by the expectations. You've got to also remember, I don't know where you're from. It'd be nice for you to tell me where you're from. But what I hear about a lot of stories about Americans, about this American exceptionalism, and that also this idea that the customer is always right, and might makes right, and all these other sort of like attitudes that basically says that if I have the means, if I have the power, and I'm an American, I can basically ask or do anything, and it's okay. And even lying, even making up stories and creating up stories seems to be more and more common. For people that even are quite famous, and you can check and test their stories, they come up with lies. And somehow or other, it's acceptable. And from my generation, I mean, I'm pretty old. My generation, you just didn't tell lies. And maybe you sort of manipulated the truth, or you got someone to say something that was a sort of a half promise. And at the end of the day, you didn't quite fulfill that half promise. But to actually tell a straightforward black lie and then not expect everybody to check it out. And then when you get confronted with the fact that you've been found out in a lie, you sort of huff and puff and say, well, it wasn't exactly like this. And then you just wait for the next media cycle so that you can then go over and say something else. Well, that just seems to be how America is at the time. Anyway, it's now 8 o'clock. I don't know if we are streaming with the next thing. We'll have a look. I have no idea how this works. Media. Who is Meghan Markle? Episode 1, Part 2. Welcome to the second part of the first episode of Who is Meghan Markle? So, let's start. The theme for this first episode is to ask, how do people see Meghan Markle? This is important because in the systemic approach welcomes other people's points of view in our attempt to better understand our patients. We all have our own view of ourselves. That view is shaped by our self-assessment and by feedback from those closest to us. And we usually trust those voices more than any others. Unfortunately, most of my patients have a distorted view of themselves, of their lives, and sometimes even of their own personal histories. This matters a great deal because I often spend a lot of time with people exploring their personal histories. The history I will later share with you, one that I think is very relevant to Meghan and to Harry to some degree, is based precisely on this issue of personal point of view. I will come back to this later. I believe Meghan has a distorted view of her childhood. This is understandable to me because I've seen it often in my clinical work and it is very complex. Personally, I use the terms official history and real history. The official history is that what other people feed us as children, how they explain events to us. We absorb it, repeat it, and it becomes the truth. But in some instances, there is something wrong with that interpretation. And then, somewhere deep down, there is a feeling that something is not quite right. That is when a discrepancy appears. For many of my patients, part of the problem is precisely this. The story they tell about themselves is not fundamentally true, even though it feels true. My role, a bit like a detective, is to investigate with them what their real history might be, using the facts that they give me, and then re-examining the interpretation of those facts as logical, intelligent adults. And this is why other people's perspectives are so important in my therapeutic process. Anyone is welcome to come into my office with a patient, family members, partners, whoever, to share their perspective on who the patient is, what the problem might be, and even how things could change. I have a big office, so that's okay. Now, let me give you an example. I once had a patient who spent months complaining about a horribly invasive mother who would come in, take over her apartment, make a mess of her life, and create enormous stress. At one point, The mother came from Los Angeles, where she would live most of the time. She came to Lausanne, and I invited her to join us for a session, which she willingly did. And I said, well, what about this story about you coming and being very invasive? I can be very direct sometimes. And she said,
well, of course I am.
That surprised me a bit, because usually the people sort of defend themselves.
Of course I am. What am I supposed to do? My daughter is a total mess. She's totally disorganized. If I don't pay the bills don't get paid. If I don't organize,
what happens?
Then what happens?
So I looked at my patient and I said, well, is there any truth in that? She looked back, rather sheepishly.
Well, I'm not very good at doing paperwork and paying bills and this and that and stuff.
So in the end, what I found out was, well, I saw a totally different facet of my patient as someone who was nice and easygoing, but as far as administration, organization, and discipline were concerned, she was a total mess. That insight gave me a clear therapeutic direction. However, even I'm not perfect. Even myself. Yes, me. There was one point, just to give you, another point of view, another example. I was in my traineeship when I was in my last year of university, or my first year after university. I worked for a wonderful psychiatrist, Dr. Gerard Sellen. Totally brilliant. But it wasn't always comfortable to work for or with. Whenever I needed to ask him a question, something to do with therapy or practical stuff, he was never available. He was always too busy and often looked very irritated every time I wanted to ask him something. And so it seems, I started to get more and more frustrated. But I wasn't aware of it. Then a colleague of mine, she came to me and she said,
Gary, do you realize how unpleasant you're being?
Me? How can I be unpleasant? I'm a nice guy. I'm always helpful. I'm always available. She looked at me and she said,
You're being unpleasant.
So I took her at her word, well, sort of, and went round the office, the office of the practice, which was the main place where I interacted with the people I work with. And I said, am I being unpleasant? Now, the people here are very honest, but also very polite. We are in Switzerland, after all. They said,
well, sometimes you're a bit stressed.
Sometimes you speak a bit loud.
Sometimes you bang the door.
And I thought, hell, I'm being unpleasant and I don't even know it. That experience taught me how essential it is to have other people reflect back to us who we are and how we function. And so this brings us back to Meghan Markle. In the next and final part of this episode, I will share a range of other people's perspectives of how they see her. Positive, negative, and contradictory. That will give us one set of perspectives, just one, from which to begin our appreciation of who is Meghan Markle. Well, there you go. That's the end of this small bit. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. So, until the next time, bye for now. This is Gary. See you soon. My phone is ringing. Maybe someone's telling me that they can't hear me anymore. So anyway, so maybe the sound is on again. So anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. And I don't know who you are or where you are. I'm really finding the... it's come back. I really must learn how this works. All of a sudden I can see myself again. So that's it for now. Give me some feedback. I'd like some comments. I'd like to hear what you're hearing, what you've seen, what you fancy. I'll be again here, hopefully, if all goes well, next Monday, and we'll have a bit of a chat. So let me know something about yourselves, something that interests you, and bye for now. See you next week.